China is probably the purest example of absolute fascism that the human race has ever experienced. Taiwan is part of what we like to call the first island chain, which was a series of islands from Japan to Taiwan to the Philippines to Indonesia that basically roughly parallel the Chinese coast. And as long as those countries are independent, China has zero chances of being a strategic power, much less a global one, unless it has some sort of external security guarantor that allows its shipping to go to and from, and that is the United States. So the obsession that Beijing has always had is one China. The idea that all the Han are on the same side, marching in lockstep under the same government, and anyone they come across must be subjugated to that will. And so when they look at Taiwan, they see the closest landmass to the coast dares to be Han and not under Beijing's control. They see it as an obsessive issue of national security. And if you look back at Chinese history, it's not ridiculous. The Han have only actually ruled China in a unified form for about 150 of the last 3,000 years. Half of that is in the period that we're in right now. And so from their point of view, anytime that Taiwan, Taipei has any allegiance other than to Beijing specifically, it's a threat. But so is Hong Kong, and so is Shanghai. And so are the Uyghurs, so are the Tibetans, so are everyone. This is just how China sees, the Han Chinese see the world, and Taiwan is just in the unfortunate position right now of being the biggest chunk of that territory that doesn't have a Chinese flag on it.
So I have, for the majority of my life, heard about tensions between China and Taiwan. And honestly, and a lot of this I think is just conflagration of, if it bleeds, it leads on traditional media. This year is going to be the year. This is the year that it's going to be a forceful. They're going to go and take Taiwan. Do you see a world where that's actually likely, where they take military action? And I ask that through the lens of there's going to be an international response to that. And I'm curious how you think that international response would just kind of flavor relations with China, if that would lead to a full-scale World War III.
If it's going to happen, we would have a hard time defending Taiwan without active help from Australia and Japan and the rest. That doesn't mean I think it's going to happen. One of the things that was understood very, very deeply in China, at least no more than 6 years ago, was that if there was a conflict in Taiwan, and even if the U.S. didn't get directly involved, and even if Taiwan folded like a wet paper bag, and even if China was able to conquer the place completely intact, it doesn't solve any of their problems. You would have countries that would do unofficial embargoes 2,000 miles from the coast, and China is the country that needs freedom of the seas the most of any country in human history. They'd face an economic collapse in under 6 months as they can't send product out, couldn't bring energy and food in. You'd see a disassociation of the Chinese system within a year that would kill half the population from famine. And that's before you consider the implications of things like the Ukraine war and the Russia resurgence and the China's build out and all those things. So from the Allies' point of view, we are no longer an ally, and they are reluctantly deciding that they have to take matters into their own hands. And for people who think that the Allies haven't been carrying the weight, that's fine. But if they start making security decisions not with us, but despite us, they start acting like normal countries again. And the last time that Germany and Japan acted like normal countries, shit got real fast. And we're setting up the perfect situation for a global conflagration. Whether or not we participate in it, a lot of steps between here and there. I don't know. But I don't feel great about it.
Well, given their population decline and where it's heading in a decade, what does that have to say about the current state of their military? What would you put their readiness level at?
That's a great question. We really don't know, because the Chinese haven't been in a hot war since Korea, and the military they have now is so radically different. They've spent the money. They've stolen the technology from the Russians. They've built it out. But we really have no idea how well it would work if they actually gave the go order. And part of the problem is that Chairman Xi has basically purged the entire system of anyone with an opinion, starting with local governments, the regional governments, the bureaucracy, media, business, and to think that he's wrecked all of these different sectors of society to the point that they can barely function, but the military is the one thing that works by Western norms, that's a bit of a stretch. much.